On Ticker, this is Import Export with Lawrence Christoffelsz.
Thanks for hanging around. We're joined now by Zoran Kostadinoski, who's with the CBFCA here in Australia. And mate, it's always great to see you. You're always an expert, but with so much stuff going on now in trade, timing is really important. So I'm going to kick off though, for the people who haven't seen you before, talk about CBFCA and tell us what you're all about.
Thank you, Lawrence, for having me on the show. CBFCA is a Customs Brokers and Forwarders Council of Australia, founded in 1904. That's 116 years rich history. Today we represent international freight forwarders and licensed customs brokers. There is a significant need for that. Our industry sector is very specialised, and being stuck in the middle of supply chain, a lot of our members operate in a very complex and regulated environment. The CBFCA provides training through our RTO for Diploma of Customs Broking and also Diploma of International Forwarding and other soft courses that are soft skills and other dangerous goods handling. So it is very, very important to support our members through these difficult times. Yeah,
I think that there's so many, not just everyone knows about what's going on with the coronavirus, and we're only just seeing the very start of that impact now. But other things and other border control, regulation changes, maybe before we even get into the coronavirus, what are the other sort of things that have emerged over the last 12 to 18 months around border control, border security? Any other new things that companies are probably unaware of?
Look, the world's changed. It is a small world, however, the risks are greater. You've seen since September 11, aviation security has changed the world forever. The way you travel through airports, the way we scan products at the airport, scanning in advance for certain countries. So there's a lot of requirement, there's a lot of regulation, a lot of training for those people to handling goods that are dangerous to go on aviation. You look at the sea environment, there's a lot more organised criminality these days. They are using supply chains. There is a lot more sophisticated criminality out there. You look at the Australian Border Force focusing on protecting us at the border. All of these things impact down on facilitation. A lot of our importers and brokers and freight forwarders who are moving the freight impacted by that. So the cost of business is greater. So instead of removing red tape, we're finding it is harder to actually clear goods at the border. And this is why we've got to continue to provide training, awareness, upskilling, professionalism. You have people that are retiring at the skill end and trying to get the new people coming into the industry is very, very important. It is very critical that we move freight.
It's a challenge to, as you said, Zoran, to get young people interested in trade and freight and supply chain logistics. It is a really great industry. It's great. It's so many new innovations, but you deal with different products, different countries, and it's up to us in the industry to try and show them how fun it can be and how profitable it can be from a professional point of view as well to get it right. But it does take the support by what you're doing with CBFCA is to really help them navigate and understand what that opportunities are.
Definitely, Look, there is no shortage of young people in freight forwarding. We're out there trying to promote the sector because it is exciting. Every day is different. It is challenging. There's regulation, there's stakeholders. You're dealing with people. And when you're dealing with people, that makes it a lot more exciting instead of sitting behind the desk and looking at a computer all day. So if you look at it from that end to end, there's a lot to be learned, and there's a lot of opportunities for young people to get into other parts of the international supply chain.
Sure. That's why I asked George to hang around on the panel, is because with the forwarding side, the brokerage side, that's all the part before it even gets to an unpack stage. But I wanted to ask about coronavirus, because you're probably seeing this as well, George, that already we're seeing less and less stock coming into the country from China. We've just had the Trade Commissioner from Korea here. Hopefully we don't have that same slowdown as well with Korea, because there's a lot of electronic products, automotive products, as we talked about. So what's happening in your minds, Zoran, around the industry? What is there a lot of panic around forwarders and brokers at the moment?
Look, there's a lot of concerns. The reason for the concern is that shipping lines have reduced capacity. The ships are not calling China. The airlines have pulled out. The virus is spreading.
Yeah.
It is not China anymore.
Yeah,
China is our biggest trading nation.
Yeah.
It is already impacting on trade coming to Australia. The Port of Melbourne statistics on average at the moment for the month of January compared to last year, they're close to just under 20%. Wow. That is significant. That is in January. So can you imagine for the next 3, 4 to 5 months, people got a plan. The demand is here, but the supply is not there anymore. And trying to find alternative sourcing countries and other will take a long time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the spread in the Middle East, Japan, South Korea, and Italy, it is very scary of what could happen. So supply will be significantly impacted, and everybody down the chain that handles any part of cargo, including unpacking, will feel George's business will feel it because there'll be less containers to unpack.
Yeah.
So, right through electronics, the clothing, everything that we rely on as consumers, people got to start thinking and planning.
Yeah, you
For
can
that
have all the-
reason, I was talking
Absolutely.
to George earlier. I said, "Why Italy?" And George explained why Italy. Just purely that Italy is a country that is visited by a lot of Chinese and other
tourists and things like that.
tourists,
Yeah.
And
especially around the Chinese New Year.
Absolutely. It happened during Chinese New Year, and they've all spread to travel.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, and Italy being a hotspot.
Yeah, quite. So I think this is why it's so important to have the association, to have the members who've got people like yourself to actually find out keep up to date with going on, because they're trying to manage their business, manage their supply chain. You're working directly with the forwarders and brokers. The ability to actually have a peak industry body such as CBFCA as a resource, someone who can actually keep updating the sector. I mean, I get your email updates daily with all the security alerts and the other updates that come through. And for me, that's when companies ask me, I can say, yeah, look, I've just read it on CBFCA's post. So it's a really important, nothing more important with these type of times that we're in now, to have that peak body as a resource that we can keep turning to.
Look, and that's our role. One of the things that if you talk to our members would say, look, we would love to be able to the import-export community to be a lot more aware. And the reason why I'm here today is also for your import-export listeners to understand that the role of a service provider, while they are moving the freight on your behalf, there are certain things that are outside their control. So you've got to have realistic expectation, not unrealistic. Because a lot of the people that work within the import, they are taught from procurement to try and get lowest cost, cheapest, just in time. So that model of supply chain management in an environment that we are interrupted coronavirus, it is not going to work.
No.
So you need to be working with everyone in the supply chain. They all got to be profitable. They all have to work together in order to get your products.
And this is when,
Because the way I see it, that companies these days rely on supply chain efficiency. They measure on the efficiency of the supply chain, not the price. There's no point getting a cheap price and not getting your product.
well, that's exactly right. It actually becomes more expensive. So
Absolutely.
more expensive.
There you go.
And again, I mean, a good example of that is with George, is that if you're doing it, if you're doing stuff that is ineffective or unproductive or inefficient, it costs you more in the long run anyway.
100%.
Yeah. So I think that there's a really valuable lesson in what we're doing here. And being an ex-forwarder myself, I know the pain that people point the finger. It's easy to point the finger at the forwarders and the brokers. Where's my cargo? And we're very quickly the scapegoat for when things go wrong. But it could be stuff like this that's going on around the world out of anyone's control. It could be poor paperwork by the supplier or by themselves as an importer. And then it's really important that they keep educating themselves on new requirements, new documentation, new border control regimes. So as an importer, it is a duty on them or exporter to understand what their liabilities are and requirements are to work best with the brokers and forwarders.
Definitely. Under the both Customs and Biosecurity Act, as a cargo owners, they have responsibility.
Yeah.
And that often that's not communicated often. Just because you're clearing on someone's behalf does not make you sort of accountable. And
No,
our
that's right,
members only rely on the information that's provided by the importer.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important that they understand the law, the requirements, what they have to do.
Correct.
At border, post border, there are a lot of transaction post border direction that allows unpacking. And George's got to understand that he has a direction for biosecurity to break seals intact, for example. Seals intact before he unpacks. There's a lot of these things that need to be communicated down to the chain. We are all part of that clearance.
Everyone.
It is not just one player.